Okay. Here we go. Make sure I share the sound now. Let me see here. Let's go like this. Let's share the sound. Yeah, sharing the sound. Good. Can you see my video, Michael? Yeah. Perfect.
I believe that is where we're at with this cryptocurrency current marketplace. We closed the first one, $5 million of Bitcoin, Ethereum, a mixture mostly Ethereum. And now we're getting a wave of individuals who are finding us. You might be finding us right now. So one of the biggest challenges with folks who are selling cryptocurrency is they want to be able to diversify. They want to be able to time the real estate market and or even the crypto market. They want to be able to have some liquidity, some cash flow. And so part of this vision is helping our clients who are in cryptocurrency buy investment real estate, all tax deferred, using the Deferred Sales Trust. Also invest with Jake Miller as the financial advisor in a diversified investment grade securities, start a business, whatever the outcome that you want to do. Why is it that you're investing with any type of asset? And what if you could sell high, diversify, and buy back in whenever you'd like to? So this is what we've already done and we're doing. We've already proven it. In fact, there's a story I wanted to read to you guys, and I'm inspired by it because I was telling Rebecca about this book, and it's by a gentleman named Russell Brunson. It's called Expert Secrets. Okay, if you haven't read it and you think you want to level up your consulting and sales and teaching ability, this is, I believe, probably might be the best book I've ever actually read on this. And I'm just going to read this opening part of this chapter here, and this will give us some basis for what we're talking about here. All right, so here we go. Okay, it says, for generations, people believed it was impossible to run the mile in under 4 minutes. They believed the human body wasn't capable of going that fast and that it would collapse under the pressure. Some doctors and scientists said it wasn't just hard or dangerous, but physically impossible. No one could run a mile in under 4 minutes. Then, on a cold, rainy day, May 6, 1954, 6 men entered a race held at the Iffley Road Track in Oxford, England. One of these men was Roger Bannister. As he crossed the finish line that day, he did something that was thought to be impossible. Over the loudspeaker, the announcement came, ladies and gentlemen, here's the result of the event. 9 and the 1 mile subject to ratification will be new world record. The time was 3. The announcement was drowned out by the crowd when they realized it was under 4 minutes. Bannister had finished the race in 3 minutes, 59 seconds. He had done what so many people believed was impossible. He broke the 4-minute mile. It says, after that record was broken, it was held up for only 46 days before it was broken by John Landy. Once people saw it was possible, it created belief in others that they could do it too. Since that time, more than 1,400 runners have broken the 4-minute mile. So what I love about this story is that for decades, maybe hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, no one believed that the 4-minute mile could be broken. And then it was broken. And then within 45 days, literally another handful of men broke it. And now 1,400 more people have broken it since 1954. So I believe that is where we're at with this cryptocurrency current marketplace. We closed the first one, $5 million of Bitcoin, Ethereum, a mixture mostly Ethereum. And now we're getting a wave of individuals who are finding us. You might be finding us right now. We have Jake and I have a Bitcoin, strictly Bitcoin, by the way, very strictly Bitcoin engagement that's been signed for which will be a new client of ours. We're looking for numbers, looking for about a $54,000 exit price. But that being said, that will be another multi-million-dollar Bitcoin case, as well as multiple other clients. And we believe in the next 45 days, this has opened up a kind of a floodgate of folks who want to capture these values. And like Roger Bannister, we've broken the impossible, we believe, which is deferring capital gains tax in a way that's very elegant. I'm going to pause there. Jake, what do you think?
All right, everybody. Welcome. So excited to have everyone here today. We are growing rapidly with everyone who's attending our mastermind every Friday. I'm so excited for those who are new here. I see some new faces. I think Michael's new. I believe, let me see if I see some new names. And I do see Clint and Jason. I think Jason might be your first time. Welcome, Jason. Of course, we have, let's see, maybe a new person named Rachel here, which is cool. We have maybe Craig looks like he's new. Is it Eileen or Elani? Nick Baby's new. We see familiar face of Clint. Thanks for being here. And of course, my running mate, my business partner, Jake Miller, financial advisor extraordinaire. I'm excited to have everyone here. And for those who don't know me, my name is Brett Swarts. I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. And we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, especially when it comes to selling cryptocurrency, right? Wanting to sell high and buy low, wanting to sell high and diversify, wanting to have a plan and feel empowered with your wealth when you sell instead of feeling trapped by capital gains tax, which can be very substantial for a lot of your very, very highly appreciated coins. And we, like that video said, we believe we found something and we've perfected something that allows you to achieve your financial goals or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Start a new business, buy real estate, again, diversify, sell crypto high, maybe buy it back when it's low. Perhaps just go start that new dream of whatever that means for you, whether it be travel or freedom with your time and your energy, or just your stress of being able to know that you don't have to feel trapped by capital gains tax any longer. We have an amazing tool called the Deferred Sales Trust, and we're on a mission to teach you how to do that and be a guide. And at one point, we didn't know what we were doing on this. In fact, in 2006, as my journey began as a commercial real estate broker, brand new in the business, trying to figure it all out. And I had clients doing what's called 1031 exchanges for a long, long period of time. And then in 2008, the market crashed and I saw a lot of them get hurt. And they got hurt because they had overpaid and they knew they were overpaying. A lot of them did. And taking on too much debt, but they felt trapped by the capital gains tax. So they felt they had to defer in a way that put them in a compromised position. And we don't want you to feel that. In fact, we figured out a way, again, that you don't have to feel that anymore. If you learn how to use the Deferred Sales Trust, which is kind of like an IRA, it's kind of like a 401k, but it's very, it's tried and true for 25 years, but it's still not really known by a lot of people. And so that is a part of why we are here. And I also want to bring in Jake Muller, introduce him. He's a financial advisor. He trains CPAs. He thinks in a way that I feel really complements the way we serve our clients. And so I want to bring Jake on. Jake, how are you doing today, my friend?
It's a wonderful day actually on this call from Los Cabos, San Lucas, having a very enjoyable time down here, speaking with some clients about diversifying their assets of all things, right? And obviously the Deferred Sales Trust plays a big part in the United States for those individuals that hold any type of assets that might have some kind of capital appreciation tax event, just like Brett mentioned. So very excited to be here on the call and to participate with my business partner, Brett, on the Deferred Sales Trust and make sure that we're helping people in whatever scenario or situation you might find yourself in that involves a qualifying event, such as a sale of a capital asset, and how the Deferred Sales Trust may be a very suitable financial strategy that helps you continue to reinvest more of those dollars rather than having to chop it all up into little bits and send it to the various taxing entities.
Perfect. And second, we want to talk about kind of the layout of what we're going to spend our next 30 or 40 minutes or so here. The layout, essentially the vision, which we've kind of laid out for you here. And then second, we're going to talk about kind of like some deal close stories to kind of help you to understand, that real people are doing this every single week. We're closing deals. And then we're going to also do a little how-to this week. I had a lot of how-tos. How does this whole thing work? And I haven't done like the how-to graphic in a little while, so I'll do a little how-to. And then we're going to open it up for questions, or anyone can ask any questions. You can also put them in the chat as we go along here. But then you can open up the mic, and it's just an open office environment here. So I heard a good quote this week, Jake, and it goes like this. It's by a guy named Tony Robbins, and he says, "Complexity is the enemy of execution. Complexity is the enemy of execution. The more complex you make it, the less likely you are to follow through." And for the one thing that we want to try to do with the Deferred Sales Trust is to make it so simple and kind of decomplex it. But there is an area of complexity, right? Because if everyone knew how to do certain things, right? Guess what? Everyone knew it. Everyone knew how to perform an ACL reconstruction surgery. I played basketball in college, and I tore my ACL one time, and then I did a medical red shirt, and then I came back, and then a couple of years after college, I tore my other ACL. So I like to say I got two brand new ACLs. I took both hamstrings, but there was cadaver, there was a hamstring, there's one patellar tendon, like all these different things. I remember sitting down with the guy, and it was like way complex, right? My cousin had multiple surgeries for his knees, and I had heard about these different things, but I'm sitting there trying to figure the thing out, and I'm going, wow, like this is intense, but I trust that the brain surgeon, or in this scenario, the ACL reconstruction surgeon who had done thousands of closes and perfected his craft, knew what he was doing, right? And that's a part of where we want to share this journey of this can be complex for some people, but we have a brain surgeon, tax attorney, CPA, a business partner who does all of these and has had a 25-year track record, thousands of closes, and never once had any of these fail with the IRS. And it's been tested over a dozen times by the IRS, which gives me a confidence to go all in on what we're doing here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. So Jake, I wonder if you have any thoughts on that quote, that complexity is the enemy of execution, and just kind of the nature of helping people make the deferred sales trust simple.
So that quote might mean a little bit more to me than it does to a lot of people, simply because for a good period of time, I was the individual that vetted a lot of financial products and strategies for a large association of accountants. Over 10,000 accounting firm owners were members, and the top 400 or so were people that I answered to, so to speak, every Tuesday for a long period of time. And they would bring me a lot of these strategies from some attorney that would do a restaurant dinner, come eat for free and listen to my pitch type of a thing. And 19 out of 20 of those just were not really good strategies or things that we could stand behind and recommend to our clients for a number of reasons. Maybe one, it's too new, there's no precedent. Or two, there's various precedents of it going both ways, being disallowed or allowed, and very complicated. But with the deferred sales trust, this is one of the few strategies out there that, there's no free meals with this strategy. It stands on its own merit, so to speak. And 25 years, like you said, it's been reviewed a number of times by the IRS. They've done a deep dive into it, has a 100% track record. And the recipe or the secret sauce hasn't changed in 25 years. It hasn't been molded. It hasn't been adapted. It hasn't been abused. People haven't made it into their own flavor, so to speak. And it's been something that has given me a high degree of confidence that when we recommend it to our clients, knowing that there's other people ongoing involved with it, and that the law firm who created it still stands behind it, still provides 100% audit protection. What does that mean? That means that they themselves represent you, not that they hire some other firm, or not that they have an insurance policy that'll pay for it. It means that they themselves put their name on the line to protect you going forward. If you're one of those 2,000 people or whatever that, with all this extra funding that the IRS is getting for additional personnel to increase audits and everything else, if you're one of those 2,000 people that might get an audit, then that you're watched over and protected with this strategy. Yeah. So anyway, that was probably perhaps a little bit more elaborate than you wanted, but that's kind of what that quote means to me.
No, I think that was great. And I think that's really important to understand, right? Because we want to be doing everything that's legal, that's been proven, that's been tried, and to show you that. So I want to talk about a couple deal stories, and since we're growing so much, and some of these are a little bit of repeat, but I want to make sure that we really touch on the crypto deal stories that have closed so far, right? And we've closed 3, and one was about 90 days ago, and was for a gentleman named Peter, and you can read an entire blog about his story that he reviewed and said, yep, we didn't put his last name there, but we put his first name, and he's out of Oakland, and he lives with his wife, and he's worked in the tech industry for over 20 years. He's actually kind of like a dual citizen from the Netherlands and the U.S., and he fell in love and understood the future of Ethereum at a very early adoption rate, and he believed in it, and so much so he started to put a couple $1,000s a month of his salary, the W-2 salary that he was making a month, and he was just putting in the dollar cost averaging, buying it, and had never sold it, never wanted to sell it because A, he believed in the future, But B, he also had a big capital gains tax, and he wanted to solve for that. So I sat down with him in Oakland, and his wife, and him, and we sat down, and I was asking him the story, and I said, hey, so why didn't you sell? Like, I mean, it went from literally like about 100,000 to 6 million in 2017. And why didn't you sell? And he said, well, I believed in the future. And two, like I hadn't, and I turned to Rachel, his wife, and I said, hey, why didn't you have him sell? She goes, I didn't even know about it until he told me this, a couple years later. And she's like, then I knew about it and I wanted him to sell. And he goes, so then we decided we were going to sell. But he said, look, we have this huge capital gains tax and we don't want to pay it and we want to defer it. We want to figure out a way. So from the time he tried to sell and figure out a capital gains tax, the market fell apart and he couldn't find a good solution. So she was very upset. He's upset too, right? Because they didn't have to work anymore. They're working 50, 60-hour weeks. They have a couple kids. They want to travel. They want to go back, to Europe and different areas. They don't want to be just in the W-2 grind in a sense. And she's an attorney and she's working long hours. So for them, it meant a lot. It meant more time and energy that they're going to have to spend working, right? Rather than being able to cash in or cash out of a highly appreciated asset, what would give them freedom of time and energy. And so once we figured that out, I said, well, now we're at 9 million at this point. And this is about, almost about a year ago now, maybe 9 months ago now. We're at $9 million. And I said, hey, well, what does that mean to you if we were to be able to sell and defer the 9 million? Well, first he said, I still believe in long-term of Ethereum and I don't want to sell. At that point, the value was right around 3,500 a coin at 9 million, okay, for him. And he said, I still believe in the long term. I do want to sell some of it or transfer some of it into the trust, but I don't want to get all of it out right away because I believe in the long term. And she's like ready to get out like now. She's like, we can retire right now. We can get out. I said, look, why don't we dollar cost average out a small amount? I go, but and then you could understand also him. He's in the tech industry. He's very, very analytical and he wants to make sure everything, and he's asking questions. And this is like a 2.5 month long process. But guess what? By the time he actually said yes and he wanted to move forward, the market crashed. It went from like 3,500 to I think it went as low as like $1,700. And so literally they're 9 million. It just completely dropped. Okay. In fact, it was at 13 million and it dropped back down to 7. So it was 9 and then it was 13 within like a month period from the time I first talked to him. And then it dropped within the next couple weeks down to like 7 or 6 million. So it just decimated and they were like devastated again. And I said, look, let's make a plan, right? Let's make a plan for the exit price. And then when you want to sell, let's dollar cost average out. And sure enough, they said, fine, we're going to wait for 3,000. When it hits 3,000, we're going to sell $5 million worth. So I said, okay, great. So I'm driving on a random Saturday. I'm driving from Sacramento and I'm heading towards Walnut Creek and I'm taking this life insurance exam because I'm passing these referrals to people and they're like, you might as well get insurance license so we can give you the referral. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take this crash course and I'm driving. I'm never leaving my family on a Saturday. Like it's like 1 in a million. Like I'm never leaving. I'm leaving them. And he calls me like at 7 in the morning and he's like, Brett, and he's so polite. He's so nice. He's like, overnight, I didn't think it would happen this fast, but Ethereum just crossed 3,000. Can we make some trades right now? I'm like, yeah, let's go. And we thought it was going to be months before it recovered, but it happened to only be like a couple weeks. So now we make the trades within an hour, all the codes, all the processing. We had already pre-planned for that. We had already done a prior trade. And part of the challenge for him, and I encourage everyone who's watching this right now, if you're interested, is we can set up the trust, but it's not just setting up the trust. We also got to go to an exchange account and set that up and get everything in order. But none of that's charged to anybody unless they do the deal. And so we were already prepared for that. We had sent some money over to make sure everything was connected. And so within the next hour of all the codes on the phones and going back and forth, I felt like it was in a movie. I said, Peter, I feel like we're in a movie. Like, what are the odds that two people from completely different backgrounds, right? You're from a different country that are connected now with one of your biggest sale of your life, right? Which is going to change your world, right? And it's going to also help change our world with the cryptocurrency world because this has never been done before with the Deferred Sales Trust. We are literally, breaking the record here. We're shattering the 4-minute mile. If you watch the video in the very beginning of this, and we're laughing. And within the next hour, he transferred $5 million, and it was done. It was like the calm. It was just pushing the button. It was just transferring. And we laughed and we celebrated, and he quit his W-2 job. He's no longer working for the tech company. He actually wants to go into the cryptocurrency world and serve that community, and it's wonderful. And fast forward, so that was about, oh gosh, maybe 100 days ago, 120 days ago. Fast forward just 30 days ago, he did another 2.5 million. Because guess what? Ethereum hit all-time highs. So he sold about 5 of his 13 million. So now he's at 8. Then that 8 went even higher, and he sold another 2.5. So collectively, they have about 7.5 million, all deferred in the Deferred Sales Trust. And to me, that's the type of deal story that is inspiring, because it's in the cryptocurrency world. It's someone who's in the tech world. It's someone that took a long time, like you did, or you're doing right now, trying to get comfortable with the Deferred Sales Trust. And it's my actual client, and you can read about the blog. And then if we get engaged and get forward, we could also put you on a call with him. But that being said, Jake, anything you want to pull out of that, or any nuggets there that you liked?
I think that the importance of having the real story, or real story of a real person, helps share with everyone that's on this call how it might be applicable to them. As far as the flexibility and the fact that this is something that isn't really cookie cutter, it's customized to every single client, is important. There might be a secret sauce, or a recipe that sometimes we talk about, and that's because it's the brain surgeons, right? It's the attorneys that are putting together all the legal documents that make all this possible. But at the end of the day, you've got two people. You've got you've got myself, and you've got Brett, and we're kind of like your executive board, your advisory board moving forward, helping individuals navigate the future investments that they might be interested in. And I say that because, just throwing out another example. So this is the story of somebody to their point of getting the trust, right? There's more of the story. And what was that old TV show? The Rest of the Story, right? There's a lot more to the story afterwards, as they continue to take what would have otherwise been an incredibly large taxable transaction, and they're able to roll that over into additional investments, diversify from whatever it was that made them all that money, and continue to snowball and grow their overall net worth and their assets moving forward. And so that's something that, every week we share a success story. We share how it worked for somebody new. And I just wanted to pull out that there is a rest of the story. People don't just go through the transaction and get rid of us. We stay with them throughout the remaining time that the trust is alive, helping them make conscious, deliberate decisions about their assets, their asset class, diversification of risk, and obviously, what they have in my realm, which is obviously marketable securities and everything else. But then with Brett, you've got crypto. With Brett, you've got real estate. Between the two of us, we help people with a number of different business interests. Another client just helped a high school friend who wanted some money to start up a business. They're doing a joint venture.
Tell that story. You start with the challenge, though, Jake, and how big it was and how big it is for the client, and who she was, and without giving her name, right? Because she hasn't given that permission yet. But give us a little more of that background, Jake. I think it's a really remarkable story.
This individual, she was going to have a tax problem, right? She was going to incur a substantial amount of capital gains because she purchased Bitcoin, and she worked for some of those big tech companies, like maybe Google or Apple or one of those two. And, just decided that, hey, with her meager investment in crypto that just kind of went huge, we're talking tens of millions of dollars, like substantial, right? Without giving the exact number. And she felt like it was time to step away from her position and kind of live her dream. And some of the things that she's always wanted to do and never been able to do, because she always had to clock in, so to speak, was help other people with their business interests. It's not so much that she had a dream of her own that she wanted to live, but she wanted to help other people's dreams come true. And this was very impactful. And anyway, without sharing too many of those details, because we really want all of you to listen to her story when she shares it herself. She was able to, in increments, she's beginning to sell out of her holdings in crypto. And, she has about $5 million or so that she's working with and executing right now to help out an old high school friend start out the business that that they've always wanted to start and just never had the means by which to do it. And now this client of ours is helping that become a reality through a joint venture because of the Deferred Sales Trust. This is funds that wouldn't be available if she had to pay taxes right away. And it's not like she's avoiding the taxes, it's being deferred. And she, at some point in the future, there'll be a time when the tax man does get paid. But right now she's able to help people accomplish their dreams and increase the net worth of everybody overall.
Fantastic. I'm going to move into the how-to on this, and people, if you have any questions along the way, please put them in the chat and or raise your hand, and then we can absolutely answer those. We don't want you to lose any nuggets that you want to pull out, or any questions or concerns or anything you have here. And so we're going to walk through, and I'm actually going to bring in Lane. Lane, you want to participate here? If he's off of mute, I think he's still there. Lane, are you there?
I'm here.
All right,
Morning.
cool. Hey, and Lane, by the way, is one of our strategic alliances, and welcome, Lane. And what's a beautiful thing about the Deferred Sales Trust, and Jake touched on a little bit about the real estate piece of it, is being able to diversify outside of assets into things that you know, like, and trust, and or find opportunities to invest with others who have expertise in commercial real estate syndication or multifamily syndications. And Lane is one of those strategic alliances, one of the few that I've vetted and got to know over the years, and it's an opportunity for Deferred Sales Trust clients for portions of the funds to be able to invest in commercial real estate. So it's really exciting to have folks like Lane. And if you don't know Lane, you should check him out. I think it's simplepassivecashflow.com, Lane. And so Lane, here we go. I'm going to just use this scenario. I'm going to actually use the actual client, and she, for this scenario, it's 50,000 is what the basis was approximately. Okay. And Jake, a little bit more rest of the story. She never sold because of the capital gains tax. She's like, I'm not selling and paying all this tax. This is crazy. I might borrow against it, but I'm not selling. And I'm just going to use 5 here, but her gain is much higher than this. Again, it's tens of millions of dollars. And just in Bitcoin, by the way, her focus is only Bitcoin, and she doesn't buy any other coins, and she just focuses on buying that, okay, for a number of reasons. But the point was, she had a huge tax, right? She lives in California, Silicon Valley, and you're looking at somewhere around 30%, okay, 30% roughly. Depends if it's short-term or long-term, but on $5 million at 30%, that's about $1.5 million. So Lane, constructive receipt and actual receipt, right? So if she were to take all 5 million and sell it, and she were to sell it and take this, Lane, how much, and this is the tax that's triggered, do you see why she'd pay that tax? Because the money actually hit her account. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's your choice is either pay the government or roll it into something else. Ideally,
Exactly.
real estate or stocks or whatever you so choose.
Exactly. And so instead of paying the tax, she's putting into this vehicle, right? Not unlike an IRA or a 401k in a lot of respects, or even a 1031 exchange. And so before we did anything, by the way, she's not going to sell it to USD. She's actually going to transfer it to the trust. And so this is the assets here. And we used a place called Kraken. And Kraken, we formed a Deferred Sales Trust at, and we opened up a Kraken account in the name of the DST, okay? And we're working on some other ones too. KuCoin, working on that one, working on Binance. We're trying to work with Coinbase. They're like the hardest to get a hold of. But right now we've definitely proven it with Kraken with multiple deals. And we open up this account, Lane. And so instead of taking that there, they're going to transfer the BTC to the DST account, okay? The DST account. It's a brand new account. And so Lane, if she transferred it, right, and didn't receive any cash, in fact, received a promissory note, didn't receive any USD, how much tax is owed on zero, Lane?
0.
You got it, right? Because she hasn't received anything yet, right? It's in a deferral state. Now, she does get a promissory note, Lane, and the note is for 10 years, okay? And this particular one is owed at 8%, okay, 8% here. Pardon my my mouse writing here. I need to get one of those fancy iPad pens with the Zoom stuff. People are doing that now. But Lane, so and she's going to receive payments, and she'll pay ordinary income tax on this. but she's going to delay payments for a few years. Now, let me ask you this, Lane. If the Kraken DST account received it for $5 million and it turns around and it sells it to USD for $5 million, so this is the 5 million, person out buying the coin, but it sold it for it got it for 5 million and sold it for 5 million. How much gain does the trust have?
No gain.
No gain.
It was just a like kind. Is it a like kind then?
So like kind, when I hear like kind, I think about 1031, right? And that's it, in this scenario, I don't think it would be considered like kind. It's just we got it for one price and sold it for one price. Whether that be Vincent Van Gogh's art piece for $100 million, we bought it for, and if we sold it for $100 million, well, guess what? There's no gain. So, or really, what it comes down to is did you buy it or get it for something and sell it for something else? So if we would have got it for 5 million and then the crypto doubles in an hour and we sell it for 10 million, which by the way is a common question that can come up, although not likely, we're not going to sell until we're ready to execute. And we're literally kind of doing this within a few minutes of when we transfer it, then sell it to USD. So it's going to be the same amount. If it's a little bit off, we'll adjust the promissory note for that. But essentially it's going to be a zero gain at the trust level. And the 5 million is going to hit the account here, right? And the cash buyer, they've taken all the BTC, they're gone, right? And we've sold it to USD, and we've got 5 million to USD, which we transferred to a bank, and the bank holds it. So Lane, any questions on there or anything you want to pull out there to make it really simple?
No, I was always kind of wondering how I got money, but I guess this is how you do it, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then we set up an ACH payment from the bank, right? So the 5 million goes there and the payments can start coming out right away. This is the payment that's going back here. Sometimes the payments are 8%, 10%, 5%, 3%, 0% for a couple of years. It's kind of what the person wants, right? But Lane, in this scenario, you become the banker if this was your deal, right? And you've carried paper, just like if for your big apartment complexes, at some point you might carry paper for the buyer, right? And in that scenario, you're deferring that gain until you start receiving it. Does that make sense, Lane? Any questions there?
I got a question back on that center box. So if I sold 5 million of Bitcoin, essentially I sold it and I bought USD, or if it was like stocks, I sold 5 million of Microsoft, bought 5 million of Yahoo or whatever. So that trick in the stock world, that triggers us taxes, right?
Right.
Why is that different within that DST? What's going on?
Because
there?
you move from an owner to a lender. You move from an owner. So remember, you were an owner of the assets here, and you sold, or in a better word would be transfers, right? Transfers to a third party trustee, which is my role, in consideration for a secure DST installment contract. So what you kind of traded for was being an owner of the asset to becoming a lender to the trust. So your asset is the promissory note.
So the trust made that transaction, right? They went to the
trust went to USD. Yeah, the BTC, the Bitcoin, you transferred the Bitcoin over. So you didn't take anything. You just transferred it to the trust, right? You didn't sell it to USD and then.
But why does the DST not pay the taxes? I guess.
So it does pay the taxes if it had a gain, and it does pay taxes once the investments, if they're performing. However, typically the trusters, it's like, think of it like a business trust, like an entity in which it has income and expenses, and it is a business trust, and that it can expense the fees that it pays Jake and I, right? And it can also expense what it owes to you. It's accruing this 8% compounding rate of return. So typically it's operating at a loss. Could these investments, once they're in the bank or once they go into commercial real estate, could that produce a return big enough to warrant some taxes? It could, right? It could. It's not as likely because 8% is compounding plus the fees, which give or take are about 1.85% to 2% on a recurring basis. So it's able to expense what it owes and therefore it can operate at a loss. Jake, you want to pull anything out of that? Or is that making sense?
Yeah, no, I would. It operates under different laws and things of this nature, but I want you to kind of think about it as a 401k. And a 401k files a form 5500. It has its own tax form, right? But it doesn't pay taxes. This trust, it has its own trust tax return, but you're taking assets, and although there's transactions inside, so going back to a 401k, you might have Apple and now you want Google. You might have Google and now you want Coca-Cola. And so you're buying and selling internally, but not incurring any taxes because everything is continually deferred forward. And this is similar to what the Deferred Sales Trust does. And internally, so we've got this big transaction that we put the trust in between you and the buyer, right? You now have a promissory note. The trust now has the assets. The assets get sold to the buyer. The buyer gives the trust money or whatever, right? Whatever the exchange was. And inside of the trust, it can then reinvest just like a 401k would with Apple, Google, Coca-Cola, what have you internally. And even if it is Apple, Google, you know, those are stocks, the actual transactions of moving in and out, they're not something that you're going to pay taxes on because they're not coming to you while they're still held inside of the trust. As long as the trust holds things at arm's length and you don't take contractual receipt, you don't actually get a distribution that you use personally for some personal expense or personal improvement. As long as we continue to say that, hey, through these joint ventures and other reinvestment opportunities, that it's a continual business reinvestment, because this is a type of a business irrevocable trust, then you're good. And it continues to move forward. And it continues to be something that snowballs as it grows.
Answer the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it seems very similar to like, I'm doing like an irrevocable trust where you kind of freeze your assets and the taxes are paid within the trust or not yet, never. Kind of seems like the same thing.
There's a lot of similarities to several different strategies that are out there. But again, the way that it's put together and the track record of the law firm is what makes it a very special thing.
Right. Kind of like if I had an irrevocable trust and my second, third generation, they want to buy a house, they write a loan to the trust. Seems very similar.
I mean, you could say that this is very similar to an irrevocable trust because it is a form of irrevocable trust. You could say this is very similar to like the installment sale rules because it abides by some of those. You could say it's very similar to like a 401k because stuff inside, you don't pay taxes on it until it comes outside, right? There's a lot of things that we can compare it to, but for like legal purposes, it's not any of those exactly.
It sounds like it's the best of all of them put together into one like amazing vehicle.
Well, and I'll be the first to tell you that it's not the solution to everything. You have to qualify. You have to have a qualifying event or a qualifying transaction to utilize it first and foremost. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, hey, I want that. I just want to put money into it. And it's like, well, wait, take 5 steps back. Do you have a qualifying transaction to be eligible for it? Not everybody does. We get a lot of referrals from a lot of people who have heard of this and have heard of a lot of other strategies. And sometimes we have to send them down a different path if it's not applicable.
Right. And to that point, we have a question into the chat. What's the minimum that makes sense for this? And our minimum is $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain. And the reason is we need to have enough pain to justify our fees and to make sense for the tax attorneys and all of our time and energy and for you for your return on your money, right? So if you have like a $100,000 deal and you bought it for 30, right, and you have a $70,000 gain, it's too small. It needs to be a $1 million net proceeds and a $1 million gain. That is our minimum to come in. Now, if you had two coins or two transactions, a real estate property and some Ethereum, 500 each, yeah, you can combine that then and equal that 1 million. That's fine. But I've had one guy call me. He's like, I've got $1.5 million and like 50 single family houses. I'm like, yeah, your expense and the cost to get everything set up is going to eat up all of basically, or the majority of your tax savings. Therefore, don't do this. Maybe look at an opportunity zone. Maybe look at 1031 exchanges if you can make sense of that, right? If you can find a deal. But those are the things we want. Or even buy some property and get some cost seg. Pay the tax and go buy a bigger property and do an accelerated depreciation on that new asset with a new depreciation schedule. And that's a powerful way to do that as well. So part of what we're here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions and what Jake is saying as well, and part of why he's my business partner is because he's seen so much. He's seen even more than me. You always want to surround yourself with more smarter people. Jake is the smarter person that I'm surrounding myself with, and try to bring what's the best solution and lay out the top 5 or so. Could be a opportunity zone, could be a 1031 exchange, could be just buying a property and do some cost seg, could be a charitable remainder trust, could be a deferred sales trust, and then laying it out and let the client decide. Most of those other 4 are pretty well known, and there's 5,000 companies offering 1031 exchanges. The deferred sales trust it's very little known, and that's why we're trying to lead the way here, if that makes sense. So that being said, I want to open up for more questions. I think the how-to is pretty straightforward, unless anyone said any questions on the how-to. But just remember, you're transferring the coin to the newly formed deferred sales trust account. You're not doing it to USD. From there, the trust is selling it to USD, and therefore it has incurred an equal, basically, received and sold price of the same. You're receiving a promissory note, and you're going to be slowly paying tax over time. It's as simple as that. And really, it's getting comfortable with becoming a lender or a bank, right? And another way you could think about it is, if you have a loan on your house, guess what? You own the house, but you owe the money to the bank. The bank has a promissory note from you, right? They're secured, and they're in first position that if you don't pay that, you can foreclose. Right? They can take, they can, I mean, if you don't pay that, they can foreclose and take the house. And so that's what's happening. You're moving from an owner to a lender. And when you do that, this is how you keep the tax deferral. So, and David asks, is there any chance I can get the link for the recording? So you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and search Capital Gains Tax Solutions on YouTube. And we're actually live on YouTube right now, live on Facebook. So that is the recording there. You can subscribe to the channel. Jason says, you mentioned clients are, is it DCA-ing out? I'm not sure if I understand that, Jason. DCA-ing.
Dollar cost averaging out.
Oh, okay. Yes. Correct. Is there a minimum dollar cost hour sale increment size to sell into the trust? No. Like, you could start out with 100,000 as long as there's a reasonable roadmap for you, Jason, to get to that million, right? And in fact, that's what we would encourage you to do. It's where there's just one asset at 100 or 200 or 300, 400,000. There's no other assets you're going to be selling in the near future or potentially moving up to that million, that we'd say it's just not a good fit, right? We got to look at this thing as the entirety of the transaction. So if you have $1.5 million of crypto and you want to start with 200 or 300,000 or 100,000, know that you're going to get the minimum fees. It's going to cost you. Know that the ROI is not going to make a lot of sense until you've gotten to $1 million placed into the trust account. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, that answers it. Thanks, Brett.
Cool. Any other questions you have right now?
Nope.
Okay, cool. All right. We also have, let's see, another question here. And feel free to unmute yourself too if you have any questions. Yeah, Michael, what are some examples of qualifying transaction? I think we kind of explained that, but it works for really anything that's highly appreciated. A business, a primary home, cryptocurrency, stock, public or private. It works for LLCs, LPs, S Corps, C Corps, partnerships, as long as $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. So hopefully that answers the question, Michael. Any more questions on that, Michael? It could be artwork or collectibles. You're good, okay. And it could be carried interest. Okay, we have a lot of commercial real estate syndicators we're working with right now, and they have carried interest. And I think Biden has taken that off. I'm not sure. Lane, do you know the updates on that? Do you know if Biden is removed that from potentially eliminating the ability for carried interest and different things like that?
I think a lot of that went away. Like, they scared a lot of people that you couldn't use self-directed IRAs.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I hear that's going away is that backdoor Roth, the mega Roth thing. But I don't really do that type of stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, good. So, but if you had carried interest and you wanted to defer it and you wanted to diversify it and redeploy it, you have the ability to do that. All right. So we've gone through the vision. We've gone through some of the deal stories. We've gone through how this thing works. Are there any questions, any thoughts? I see Mitch is on the line too. Mitch is a financial advisor out in Colorado, one of our strategic alliances. And I know he's working on a big deal. Mitch, you were telling me about that one this week. You want to come in and talk about that one, Mitch?
Not really. I don't want to take any energy away from it.
No, I think it's good to hear from perspective for someone like yourself who's a financial advisor who's been studying the deferred sales trust for about 6 or 7 months now.
Yeah.
And is any thoughts on what you're seeing out there or questions that are coming up?
Well, it's just we're just at the beginning of evolving the conversation around the possibility of working in a deferred sales trust for the sale of this property they've got up in Northern California. And they were very excited to hear that there's a possibility like this, but we haven't gotten much further just because everybody's so busy. So, but I'm excited about it. It could be a very nice case, a very large case. And then there was another case up here in the Boulder area where it's a possible restaurant sale, and we're excited to hopefully see that go through. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then also, let's see here, Pierce. Pierce is also he's a part of Capital Gains Tax Solutions too. He'll be taking over the podcast, or a lot of podcasts here shortly, as soon as he gets his internet set up. I've been saying that for weeks now. He had his baby. Pierce, how's the baby doing? And what about you? Any live deals that you could share on anyone who's looking at the Deferred Sales Trust?
The baby is good. She's really cute, so that's awesome. And she doesn't sleep a lot, so that's awesome. Internet is connected, so finally got up to over 600 megabytes per second over there, Brett. So I'm good to go.
You're big time. I love that.
Yeah.
How about any deals? Any live deals or things that you're working on? Do you think the Deferred Sales Trust is applicable that could help out anyone today?
I mean, last couple of weeks have been kind of a whirlwind, so I haven't secured anything. So I'm kind of now getting into a little routine where, we're kind of past the shock of having a third child, and so we're hitting the ground running though. I got some marketing stuff that's going to go out, and hopefully here soon they'll be good.
Good. And tell people where they can find you for luxury real estate in Newport Beach area.
Yeah. So kingdomluxuryrealty.com, and where you can call my cell, put it in the chat. 916.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
878-0903.
Good. And look for Pierce coming on the podcast. Okay. He's going to be, it's going to be his first time interviewing people. I'm just throwing him into the fire here. So, but I think he's going to do amazing. I've been coaching and working with Pierce, good friend of mine, now for over I think 6 or 7 years now. So, all right. So with that being said, if anyone, Rebecca's here too. Rebecca, if you have any deals that you're working on or thoughts or questions, do you want to bring them up now?
No, I think I'll hold off for, I have one that I'm working on, but I'm going to hold off until probably after the first of the year to kind of get that one going. So,
and Rebecca, what's your specialty and where are you at?
Specialty is luxury real estate. Also, I am in the Truckee, Lake Tahoe area on the California side. Yeah.
And Rebecca and I are officially business partners. She joined EXP with me and Pierce. And so we're excited to have her on the team. And she also has experience with her husband building houses, like these custom luxury homes. And in fact, she found me, Rebecca. Right. You want to tell them the story how you even found me? You guys are
sure.
selling?
Real quick. My husband and I sold a luxury home last year. We were just taking advantage of the market. We'd only lived in it for about 3 months, so we couldn't take the 2-year and
I think we're losing it. I think we're on the Zoom there. You still there?
About $850,000 in capital gains. Almost $1 million in gains, and oops, bad internet. But anyway, and so a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, told me about Brett, and that's how we got connected, because I had to pay $250,000 in capital gains for
yes. So we don't want that to be you or anyone you know. So we want you to invite someone next week. Please invite someone, share this with somebody who has cryptocurrency, a business, primary home. They can want to defer the tax and not feel trapped by all that. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, we got most of that, Rebecca. I like that it's like you're in a black like Uber heading to like an undisclosed location. You look like you're like a rock star there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, that being said, Jake, any last thoughts or anyone else before we end it? Oh, Michael has one. Go ahead, Michael.
I got a quick question. So
yeah.
Once a DST is established with a qualifying transaction, does the individual that holds the the promissory note to that DST, are they able to continue to contribute to that DST if they have additional qualifying transactions?
The answer is yes. Jake, you want to touch on that?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we even had a fellow we were working with out of Idaho that was selling 15 homes. And yeah, this isn't like a 1031 where it's got to be a new one every time. This isn't like a, a deferred Delaware statutory trust fund. This isn't like, some of those other things where it's a new one every time, right? With the deferred sales trust, there'll be a new promissory note for each asset that is sold, unless it's sold as a package, right? But for each time differential, there'll be a new promissory note. And if there is some unique need, there might be a new deferred sales trust. But typically we utilize the same deferred sales trust going forward, just add new promissory notes to it. Well, to the client, if that makes sense. And that is actually a very common thing. Oftentimes these serial entrepreneurs that hold highly appreciated assets, they don't sell them all off all at the same time. And the same deferred sales trust can continue to move forward and receive those assets even at different times. And that's okay.
Got one last question. I'm so sorry,
You
guys.
can ask 2 or 3. You're good, Michael. Go.
Would a DST be a suitable vehicle for, say, somebody that does like a commercial real estate agent that has large transactions and commissions that are over $1 million plus? Would that be an appropriate vehicle for that that type of income?
So
The-
get
the
with us
answer-
offline. Get with us
Yeah.
offline, Michael. Yeah, on that.
I was going to say the answer depends, and it depends on the legal contracts. And that is something that the attorneys need to review, because there are occasions when something like that does work. There are occasions when it doesn't.
Well, and then if you're having consistent income, for example, if year over year, Michael, you're having, let's say $500,000 to $1 million of income, and, you're in your 50s or going into your 60s, there are other vehicles, for example, the cash balance plan, where you could put up to $3 million over a number of years because you're restricted to how much you can put in. But that would not only be deductible, but then also tax deferred, and you're essentially creating your own defined benefit pension plan. So that is one avenue you might want to consider.
See, these are some good ideas here. Michael, any more questions there? And also, Andrew came in late too. Andrew, you have any questions or any thoughts? And no worries if not.
No, I'm just a fly on the wall today. Thank you. No big questions.
Yep. Awesome.
Hey, Brett, I've got a question real quick, and I appreciate both you and Jake putting on this webinar. It's really educational. I'm based in California, just like you, and this is kind of what attracted me to this webcast. And I don't trust the state of California as far as I can throw it. I trust this administration even less than that. So my question is, I like the structure of the DST, but can you, after maybe say 8 years of setting up the DST, can you transfer your residency to like a Puerto Rico and establish a new tax basis there, and then pull out funds and then not get taxed on those gains because you're now based in Puerto Rico? How does that work?
So there's a huge conversation over nexus and time and where the asset was. So if it's a physical tangible asset like a house or a building in California, it's a completely different story than if it's a digital asset like crypto.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now, again, this is another topic that we should really handle offline with the attorneys, because it's like splitting hairs when sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I'm in a public-private stock kind of a bucket. But, I've heard about these California trailers for 10 years and all these other initiatives they're trying to employ. And I was just kind of curious about how it worked. But I do like the setup of this, and it sounds really, really interesting. So I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say, definitely reach out so that we can give it a little bit more attention. It is something that we address not commonly enough to do a whole episode on it here for everybody, because it doesn't fit the bulk majority of people's scenarios. However, we are more than happy to, again, this is one of those things that needs to be customized to where the DST could be a really good fit potentially, depending on a number of other details.
I do want to touch on one thing though that is an advantage. We call it the income tax advantage, and it's part of our number 3 secret to how to make the deferred sales trust an investment and not an expense. And it has to do with not only capital gains tax deferral, that's step one, but step two is income tax deferral. So it's not really answering your question, but it's related in that, let's imagine you live in California. In fact, I had a client, we sold an $8.3 million Palo Alto primary home. And then he moved from California and he established a residency in Nevada. Okay. And so there's two things. There's the principal amount that's in the trust, and there's the interest of what it's earning. Okay. And so the interest that it's earning is taxed at ordinary income tax rates, right? So if he's in Nevada, guess what? He's got a 0 ordinary income tax, right? Versus California. Now, if he dips into the principal, he'll pay capital gains tax back to California because that was the property that was there and where he owned it. So it is a great way to potentially, and also you can delay the payment too for a couple of years while you're establishing residency. So if you're in New York and or California or these really high tax states, and you're like, hey, I'm selling my business, my cryptocurrency, I want to defer the tax for a long time, as well as I want to defer the income tax for a shorter period of time until I establish residency. We can customize that to be that case. In fact, I had a client who sold his $2.6 million business in Alabama, and he's building some apartments in Tennessee, but he delayed the income. He's in his mid 40s, and he's like, hey, I got a lot of income right now. If I can not take all that 2.6 in 1 year and have my tax bracket explode it, but B, also defer the income tax or the interest payments off of the trust for a couple of years. That was really powerful for him on those two ROIs. So does that make sense there, Jim? Or any thoughts on questions on that?
No, it does. And actually, maybe to build on that, that other question is that have you guys heard anything with regards to this administration as they're looking at the charitable remainder, the Delaware? Are they looking to go after those? Do we see anything that could potentially hit us down the line, maybe with the deferred sales trust? Are they looking to leave those alone for now, or what's your thought on that?
So currently the existing administration, this is something that we watch rather closely. They're putting a lot of attention, unprecedented attention on the 1031 and a few other things out there, but no, they have not even tweeted about the deferred sales trust or trying to go after it. And more is what you can see this past bill, the infrastructure bill that has all these other bills inside of it, right? Including financial advisors and other people assisting with crypto transactions, having to report it to the government, all kinds of crazy stuff. But the point I was going to bring up is in there, they don't provide a way to fund their big infrastructure bill, except that they've identified that they're looking to almost double their workforce for the IRS, and that they plan to increase by 2 to 4 times. I mean, they say 2 times, but if you look at their movement, they're trying to increase dramatically the amount of audits that will happen during the year. And that is where they are looking to get overall funding for the infrastructure bill, is by auditing more people in general, not going after any particular field or place, other than you can see that they're trying to go after unrealized gains and 1031s and a few things of that nature. But those are kind of like weaker arguments compared to, well, we've actually funded for more IRS agents to do more audits. That is a stronger, more direct move. Does that make sense?
It does. And Jake, if an audit does come up and they come to me, is there transparency? Is there clarity that they can see into a deferred sales trust that I have set up on the side, or are they just looking straight at my W-2 income, my self-employment income, things like that? They wouldn't, then try to look into a trust that I've had set up.
So we err on the side of transparency, and we are extremely conservative, and we can do that because the law firm stands behind us, and the law firm has 100% track record representing the trust. And so we don't try to hide anything, if that makes sense. This isn't one of those strategies where there's anonymity. This isn't one of their strategies where there's so much privacy. This is more of a very solid, hey, this has worked, and it's worked for 25 years and for thousands of trusts, and there hasn't been any issue. So there's not a need or necessity to hide that stuff. But to your point, if you are being audited, that is you, that is your social.
Mm-hmm. That's great. No, that's what I was looking for. I really appreciate that. I'm really interested in this.
Let me add to this too, by the way. with your CPA, part of what the tax team does is they work alongside your CPA. You are reporting this to the IRS. You're saying, hey, I'm doing an installment sale with this trust. So it's literally on your tax returns. There's a form that's filed that says, I sold crypto for $10 million. I bought it for $100,000. Or let me back up. I'd use an installment sale to defer $10 million of a sale, of which my basis is $100,000, just for example, using this deferred sales trust. Like it's all going to be reported on your tax return, right? That's the part of what we provide. So we're not hiding anything. They'd see it. And by the way, of the 12 random audits, this is important. These were no change audits, but they weren't triggered by the deferred sales trust. It wasn't like someone did a deferred sales trust and the IRS said, whoa, what are you doing over there? Let me audit all of your stuff. No. These happened to be random audits that were no trigger audits by the deferred sales trust. They were high net worth individuals of which they looked at their tax return. They said, oh, what's this installment sale thing here? And so that's a deferred sales trust. And they said, oh, let me go into that. And then they went into that. The tax attorneys provided all of the documentation, showed them exactly what it was, showed them the legitimately third-party unrelated trustee, which is me, showed them that the funds were invested into different investments, that there wasn't any inside, family deals going on. It was all above board. There was business purpose. These are all the things that they'd asked. And it just, oh, great, no change. Perfect audit, no change. That happened 12 times. Then there was 3 additional formal audits where there wasn't a particular case. They were just seeing how big we were getting on the internet or big deals were going down. And in fact, one of them was, before that, one of them was a $125 million random audit in San Diego for a deal that was closed. And that was a no change audit. And so they did 3 formal audits. It started in Long Beach, California, and they reviewed it. They sent it to DC. They said, we just want to see everything. Just give us everything. Just give us the documentation, give us the structure. We want to make sure there's no offshore going on. No, we're importing everything. Everything is here. They sent it to DC for 3 months, and for 3 months they did a review. No change. Perfect, right? Literally batting 1,000. The last one happened in April of 2019. And that was closed out as a no change formal audit. It's never been on the dirt.
I was going to say, just sorry for interrupting, no change and no findings.
Right.
So the 2 different things, incredibly important, because any IRS agent that performs an audit of any kind, like to justify their existence, they have to find something, and they look so much better if they find it and make you change something. It's like a 4-way inspection for a new home, right? The building inspector's got to find something and possibly recommend that you change something to move on. The same with the IRS agents, and 14 times, no changes, no audits, not any of them.
That's really helpful. No, I appreciate that.
An incredible track record.
It sounds like it's worth having a DST literally just for the audit defense if all these audits are going to be coming down the pipe here for the infrastructure bill.
Well, let me also clarify. It's not audit defense on your entire estate, right? They're providing audit defense for the sliver of the deferred sales trust. So it's not like, so just to clarify, Pierce, it's not like they're like, oh yeah, we'll cover your, because they're not doing your personal tax returns. In fact, your CPA is still doing your personal tax returns. The deferred sales trust, they're the brain surgeons. Your general practitioners are your CPAs. So they would help you on your general tax return audit. And then for the space of the deferred sales trust, we would dive in, if that makes sense, Pierce.
Totally. I was kidding, but
that would be having your cake and eat it too. But yeah, audits are they're actually very low. There would probably be more, but trusts are one of the lowest. Individuals and businesses, S corps, C corps, LLCs tend to be some of the higher ones. So, good questions, Jim. That was really helpful. I appreciate the interaction. Any thoughts or questions on that, Jim? Or do you want to even ask what you? We can also clarify if your deal makes sense too. That can be helpful for everybody here.
Yeah, I mean, the deals I'm dealing with are just kind of an angel investment in a couple of companies, and so it's private stock right now, but we're looking to have an event here in Q1, Q2. So just want to kind of lay the foundation prior to that happening. So
perfect. And just a FYI for that, okay, especially if you're working with other partners and you may not be at the top of it, you're a part of all of these investors, to be very, very early, right? Because what we found is if people slam it in at the very end or make the ask, they may have to change stuff, and it can be overwhelming for whoever the decision maker is to make that sale or go IPO or whatever it might be. So, and this is part of our no cost, no obligation due diligence with us, but also to help once you're engaged with us to talk with the attorneys that are structuring that deal to get your trust in place and then to put it to them. And it shouldn't affect and doesn't, in our mind, affect any of the other partners. They may or may not do the deferred sales trust. But for your sliver, right, you say, hey, I'm doing some estate planning. And would you please cooperate with this newly formed, trust? Here it is. Here, any questions? Boom. And so it's there so that you're not caught in like, it's January, February, and they're like, hey, we're closing 2 weeks. This is what we've heard. And all of a sudden people call me and they're like, we're closing 2 weeks. And they're like trying to jam it in. And the people on your side, right, are either not responsive or don't have the time or the energy to cooperate because they're dealing with such a big deal. So my encouragement to you is to be very early, and literally like get us involved is in the next week or two, if it's going to be a first quarter potentially, so that you have a chance to get this set up in time. Does that make sense, Jim?
It does. And what is the turnaround time on something like that? If everybody is on board, they're ready to go. What do you feel is a comfortable time frame to get this set up?
It depends on how quickly you can get us the information, right? And how quickly you can connect us with the parties, right? And so when we've formed trust in 72 hours.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
From our side, I would say that typical turnaround time is about 2 weeks when the client has everything ready to go. If the client doesn't have everything ready to go, or if there's an unknown sales date, if they're still in negotiations, what have you, then obviously it's not us that people are waiting on. And of course, we can't do it as fast as in 72 hours if there's something that's urgent. But earlier to the game, you're able to prepare things much better, make sure that all the contracts are saying what they should say, and just make it look like there was proper intent from the very beginning, that it wasn't like a last minute move. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm actually one of those guys that likes to kind of go first, put the most money in. I've got 7 or 8 guys that I brought in with me, but I always like to go in the biggest, take the biggest hit, and just that'll kind of breed confidence with everybody else. So when we formed an LLC, then I split up all the stock certificates individually. And so maybe I would set mine up first. And then once they see and they have confidence in it, then I could bring each one of them in at the same, kind of following shortly thereafter,
We love referrals. However, what point you're comfortable, giving us a shot to serve your partners or your friends, your family, right? We love the opportunity to give that shot. And again, no cost, no obligation. If they say no, no problem, right? There's $29 trillion of debt that, that some good Americans need to pay. We're just hoping it's not any of our friends or family or clients.
Absolutely. No, that's great. No, I really appreciate all the help on this. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate you participating and opening up with us. So anybody else? Again, this is we're 5 minutes over right now. And I know typically we go for about an hour, but I actually don't have back-to-back today, so I don't have to like randomly just cut us off fast. So is there anyone else out there who has a question or thought or concern? We'd love to answer it while you have everyone here.
Great stuff, Brett. Gotta go. Take care, man.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. Talk to you soon.
Very good.
All right, people, that sounds like it's a wrap then. So I want to encourage you to find us. Take action now. If you have a deal, $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain, and especially if it's closing in the next, let's say, potentially 30, 60, 90 days, schedule a one-on-one consultation by going to capitalgainstaxsolution.com. Make sure you mention that you saw us on the mastermind here, right? And then we can get a call going and set up with me and Jake Miller and to see if it's a good fit for you and to dive into your scenario. So they go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com. You can also reach out to Jake directly. Jake, what's the best place for them to find you there?
Yeah, so we've got alphamarktax.com, tax.com, or 1-800-773-1848. And happy to help and review, make sure first and foremost you're eligible, and then talk about some of the mechanics that can make it very successful.
Perfect. Well, Jake, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for attending, and bring someone next week, please. Bring your CPA, bring your real estate professional, bring whoever, right, that you need to get some more confidence to, and they can learn about it. And we're happy to have them. Everyone's invited. And with that being said, we will see you all next week, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, fellas.